So JB Pritzker in Illinois signed into law a bill that on Friday that will allow doctors in Illinois to prescribe the deaths of their own patients. First, do no harm. I'm having a hard time with that. Doctors, maybe you can tell me how you get around this. First, do no harm. That is a very important concept that our doctors are to buy into and that we all believe. First, do no harm. If you don't have that, all kinds of things can follow, especially when they're couched with compassion. And that is exactly what this is always couched in, compassion. Okay. So this new law goes into effect in September of next year. Terminally ill patients over the age of 18 are going to be able to get a suicide drug from their doctor. This is the 12th state in the country that is allowing assisted suicide, and there are about 25 others that are standing in line for it. What a surprise! Illinois is the one, the first of this batch of them coming in to say, "I want to kill people." It is a culture of death, and that's what we are battling. No matter what anybody tells you, we're not battling the Republicans or the Democrats. It's not politics. It's not Marxism. It is a culture of death that we are battling. It is evil. It is evil. A culture of death. When you look at what people are saying about global warming, what is the solution? Fewer people. How do you do that? Well, culture of death takes care of that, right? When you look at just about anything now, healthcare, abortion, culture of death. Islam, culture of death. Marxism, honestly, it is a culture of death. Why would I say that? Because, well, it eliminates those who disagree with it. And first, it just pushes them off the sidelines, but eventually it ends in camps. But also, look at what's being taught to our kids. They're killing themselves because they're so depressed, because it has no meaning. It completely rejects the human aspect of humanity. Okay, culture of death. That's really what we're fighting. Make no mistake. Now, Illinois and Pritzker, they're saying, well, no. This is going to be we're going to be very, very careful. You got to have 2 doctors. Well, okay, that's good. I mean, Germany had 3 doctors had to give you permission. So you're not even up the line of Nazi Germany, but congratulations on that. And they have to be diagnosed as having 6 months or less to live. Okay. Want you to know, Illinois, America, Western world, you're being played. This is not compassion. I'm going to be real clear with you. This is preparation for when the system can no longer afford to fulfill its promises. That's what this is. They are preparing the system to be able to have the way out, and they're preparing you so you look at this as compassion, and so when it gets worse and worse up until the very end, you don't recognize it. I mean, they're beginning to a little bit in Canada to see what's coming their way. And why is it happening? Because they can no longer afford socialized medicine. They can't afford to fulfill the promises. Let me just add, can America afford to fulfill its promises that it's made for generations on all of this socialized everything? No. In fact, there are people now trying to double down. We can't afford anything. They're trying to double down and expand those programs, which will only collapse us faster. And so when they collapse, nobody likes it. Well, rich people can get surgery. And as I've said to you before, I don't like that either. I really don't like that. But how else do you do it? How else do you do it? Well, we have a committee and we ration things. Okay. Here's where you're not going to like that. You're not going to like that because that's not the way humans work. When they ration things, either the people with money or the people with power always find a way to short circuit so they can get to the top. So the one that you're saying now is just the poor, helpless waif that's not getting anything because of the rich people. When the system changes, that poor, lonely waif is still not going to get any help because the powerful, the ones that are connected, they'll get the medical care and the waif won't get any medical care. People will find a way to short circuit the system because people generally suck. And when you give all the power to people, it's not good. It's usually not good. So you may not like the, pay for it kind of system, but it is the best one out there. And you really don't want to give a bureaucracy the ability to kill you if you become expensive or inconvenient. Now, I know that's not what they're saying now. That's not what we're doing. We're giving people out of compassion. We're helping them end their lives. That is exactly what happened in Canada. Let me just tell you, it was called C14. Let me just look up the facts here. C14 in Canada. It happened in 2016. And what it meant was you could get compassionate care if you had 3 doctors approved. You had a terminal, I don't remember what they call it, but basically that you could see the end in sight. Okay, there was no way for us to repair your body and heal you, so we could see that. Basically, you were terminal. We could see that in the future, near future, and 3 doctors agreed, and then you had a waiting period after you requested it. The doctors would approve, and then there was 10 days before it could be administered, 10 days for you to back out, okay? That's what it started as, all right? Yeah, that's not what it's become. 2016, that's what it was. And you had to be 18 years or older, and you had to have full capacity. So you couldn't listen to, friends or family. You had to make the decision, and you needed full capacity. Okay. Then things started to fall apart. Then we had COVID. Then we had all these expenses. Then we started having people move into the country. This is Canada. Same thing happened here. COVID, hospitals are overwhelmed. Medical care goes to hell. And then you start bringing in people from all over the world, and now you don't have hospital care. Everybody is crowded. The doctors are overwhelmed. And so in 2021, they decided, the Quebec court decided, well, death in the foreseeable future, is that really necessary? Excuse me? I mean, the reasonable, foreseeable, natural death requirement, do we really need that? The court said, no, we really don't. There's 2 tracks. Those who have natural death in the foreseeable future, we're going to make it a little easier for them. So beyond the request, the 3 doctors, and the 10-day waiting period, we're going to get rid of some of that because it's not necessary. I mean, if you're in the reasonably foreseeable future, you don't need all those safeguards. And then people whose natural death is not reasonably foreseeable, well, we're going to make them do all of those things. Okay. Oh, and by the way, we're removing the 10-day waiting period too. Once the doctor says you're good, you're good. Okay. All right. That wasn't far enough. Now they have a new bill, C7, Canada Bill 7. When that removed the foreseeable requirement, they added a temporary exclusion for people whose sole medical condition was a mental disorder. Oh, wow. So now we're into mental illness. So your death isn't in the foreseeable future, but you really want to die. So does this apply to people with mental problems? Oh, no. No, we're not going to ban it. We're just going to put a temporary ban on that one. Why would you put a temporary ban on that? Why would you put a temporary ban on something like that? Okay, so why would you remove the restriction on the mentally ill? Remember, the first thing was you got to be fully there. You have to be competent and aware of what you're doing. Then they said, well, the foreseeable future thing, your death is, inevitable. We're going to take that away. But we're going to put a temporary restriction on mental illness. The only reason why you would make that a temporary restriction is because you're just trying to get the rest of the society to catch up with what you're going to do. That's the only reason. And that's why it has been extended. Okay, it was supposed to end in 2023. Then it was extended to March 2024. And now it has been pushed to 2027. Okay? So you're not eligible for MAiD until March 2027 if you have a mental illness. Now, they may push it forward again to give them more time to convince everybody that that's what they have to do. And how do you convince people? Well, you convince people because there's shortages. And that person doesn't have the capability to even think. They're mentally ill. They might even want to die. They're very, very depressed. They're very depressed. And so they want to die anyway. Let them die. I need the doctor. Okay? That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. Unless we remember who we are. Unless all of a sudden we're like, you know what? That's not who we are. That's not the West. The West is not defined by its technology, even by its freedom or its wealth. Everybody thinks, the West is you're going to get wealthy. No, that's not it. What makes us unique in the West, the entire West, Canada including, all of Europe, this radical idea that the individual has inherent value, that nobody is expendable. And not because they're useful, not because they're productive, not because they're convenient. They have an inherent right to exist, to live. If you look at the past, you look at Athens and Rome. They put babies that were not boys, they were girls, or they were deformed anyway. They just throw them on a garbage barge, and these barges would go down the rivers with screaming babies on them. They just let them die. Okay, that's the way it was. But the West, through Judeo-Christian ethics, taught us that's not right. We build hospitals before skyscrapers. We put limits on force. We teach doctors to heal, not to calculate. When a society like ours stops choosing life, it does not become more compassionate. It becomes more efficient. Not compassionate, efficient. And efficiency has never given birth to moral virtue. Efficiency kills it. If that's your goal, it kills it. Fighting this culture of death, it is the most important thing we can focus on. A lot of people will focus on politics and everything else and what JB Pritzker is doing here, there, and everywhere else. I don't even care about the politics. We have to convince one another. We have to start standing up for the principles that made the West, because without the choice to protect life at its most fragile, we are no longer a civilization worth saving. We're just another system deciding, I don't know, is that worth the trouble? And history is very clear where that society ends. That's why last week, to me, it was so personal and so important to help this woman, not just because it's the right thing to do and because every life matters, and this happened to be a life that came across my path, and I'm like, we got to stop that. But because this goes to something bigger, and it is infecting us right now. And if we buy the lies that this is for compassion, look, I understand pain. I understand end of life. I don't want to be in that situation. I know you don't want to be. And I know what it feels like with my dog, putting my dog down. It kills me, put my dog down. So I I get it on the dog level, let alone, a parent level or a spouse level. I get it. But you cannot, as a society, go down this road, because once you open this door, all the other doors just start to swing open when there's trouble.
Beck.
The first sign of shortage, all those doors open up. And guess what we're headed for? Shortages.